Hi, I'm Jan with Academic Technologies. Today, we're happy to announce the addition of a brand new pair of tools being added to your Scholar courses for the fall 2020 semester. These tools, the Respondus Lockdown Browser and Respondus Monitor, are designed to work together to create an online proctoring system to help protect the security of tests given and graded through Scholar. This has been a major question as more faculty members move midterms and final exams online. In this video, we're going to demonstrate an overview of these two new tools and how they operate within Scholar, both from the perspective of an instructor and the perspective of a student. So let's not delay and get into it. A good place to start, in this case, is to give you a small overview of what these two tools actually are and what they do. So here's a quick summary. The Respondus Lockdown Browser, to start, is exactly what it sounds like. An internet browser set to access Scholar and only Scholar, while locking down any other program or internet browser open on the computer. This means that while using the Lockdown Browser to take a test, students will not be able to use other programs on their computer, or even access other websites. This helps protect the security of that test attempt. Students will need to download and install the Lockdown Browser on their computers if they intend to use their own device to take exams that require it. We'll make sure to provide access to the install package for you. Monitor, on the other hand, works to protect the security of an exam from external concerns, such as a student may be using a mobile device while taking their test. Monitor uses the web camera and microphone in a student computer to first verify the identity of a student taking an exam, then it records their test-taking attempt remotely. The program flags potential issues during that attempt, such as a student leaving the view of the camera or taking out an external device such as that phone. It then compiles these issues in a report that instructors can review for themselves. Together, the combination of Respondus Lockdown Browser and Respondus Monitor is designed to detect and identify security concerns from both possible angles, creating a securely proctored testing environment for digital exams. So let's take a look at how activating these tools on a test is done. From inside of a course, we can find the Respondus tools by going to the Course Tools menu and locating the link for Respondus Lockdown Browser among the list of tools there, right here. Clicking on it will bring you to the main space for Respondus, which can also lead you to a number of resources and tutorials provided by the creators of these tools. You're free to use these resources in addition to ours in order to keep yourself informed. However, once you're ready, you can just click through to the tool itself. You can also choose to not show this page with all these materials again. But let's continue on. Once you're inside the tool, you'll see a list of all the tests that have been deployed to your course so far. This is where I want to bring up an important first note about how this tool operates. You can only add Respondus tools to already existing tests in Scholar, as the tools do not provide an opportunity for test creation. For many faculty, this is a good thing, as it means their workflow for actually creating their exams will not be interrupted. You just create the tests in Scholar the way you usually do. If you would like instruction on creating tests in Scholar, please see the playlists on tests linked in the description or just reach out to us. Just note that the test has to exist first before you can add Respondus tools to it. Please keep in mind, though, that when you do make your test within the Tests tool in Scholar, that you do not use the setting that allows you to add a password. Adding a password within the Tests tool conflicts with how the test can be distributed within the Respondus tools, which can cause some problems when students try to take that test. From inside this list, we can then select the test we want to add the tools to, and choose Settings from the resulting drop-down menu. Once you do, you'll see the option to turn on requirements for the Respondus Lockdown Browser. If you choose to enable these requirements, This will also unlock the ability to turn on and customize settings for Respondus Monitor, as well as choose advanced settings for how the Lockdown browser operates. Things like being able to add access to specific external websites or enabling a calculator. I do also want to bring up another important note here. The way these two tools, Respondus Lockdown Browser and Respondus Monitor, are related to each other, you are not able to use Respondus Monitor on a test without first turning on the requirement for the Respondus Lockdown Browser. However, you can turn on the Lockdown Browser without necessarily enabling Respondus Monitor. But for the sake of this demonstration, we are going to require both. And we'll see a quick note here. You'll also see some additional settings allowing you to customize how Respondus Monitor will be used. Once you've selected all of the settings that you want, you'll need to click Save to save those settings to the test. This will enable these settings being saved. One note about all of these settings for both of these tools in general. So let's click Save and Close. Once you've enabled all of these settings, you'll note that the title of the test you've just added these tools to may be altered slightly. Enabling the Lockdown Browser will add a note to the title that the Lockdown Browser is required, while enabling Monitor will add this webcam term, as a way of notifying students that this exam will require the use of their webcam as well as the Lockdown Browser. At this time, we recommend you keep these additions to the test titles rather than try to edit them out later, as they serve as advance notice to students that the exam they are about to take needs to be proctored. Speaking of which, it's time to open the Lockdown Browser and take this test as a student would. Now, recording live footage within the Lockdown Browser can be difficult, as one of the primary functions of the browser is to block out or shut down other programs running on the computer. That's just how the Lockdown Browser works. But fortunately, we have a good series of screenshots showing the process once the student's Lockdown Browser is open and logged into Scholar. So, we're logged into Scholar, and we've navigated to the test we just added the Respondus tools to. Once we click it, the student may briefly see that password field I mentioned earlier, but it should bring them right through to the starting pages of Respondus Monitor. These pages are designed to help students set up and test their web camera and facial recognition. Depending on the settings you chose when adding these tools, it can also provide a brief set of instructions on how to engage with the web camera during their test attempt, as well as a page that requires the student to show their ID to verify that their face matches their identity. Or it may have the student show their overall testing space by panning their web camera around the room. After the student has gone through the run-through of any settings you left activated, they'll be pushed into the test itself, and will then be able to complete the test as usual, with Monitor running in the background on their browser. Throughout their test, Monitor will be using the student's webcam and microphone to record the testing session. Then, if a student tries to exit the browser before the test is submitted, a dialog box will pop up asking what's up. A student will have to put in an explanation for why they are leaving the test and the browser before the test is finished. Now that we've seen how a student will take their test using Respondus Lockdown Browser and Respondus Monitor, we have an example of a test attempt that we can examine as an instructor. So let's go back to the tool as an instructor and go to our list of tests. Now that the students have taken the test with Monitor activated, the drop-down now includes an option to view class results. Opening this option will bring you to a list of all the test attempts that have been taken so far, along with some key information about that attempt. If a given user has made multiple attempts, you may need to expand that user to see them all. One of the most important pieces of information in this report is the level of review priority that should be given to each attempt: high, medium, or low. We have examples of each here for a brief look at them. And these levels give you a general idea of the number of red flagged events a student's test attempt has made. Let's take a look at our high-level students' test attempt. We can see here that we have access to the full video recording of the student's test-taking session, and that video has our red flagged moments marked, as well as a list of what caused those flags. We can play through the entire test-taking session if we like, or use the time markers in that list to jump to those red flags for observation. We can also compare these red flags against milestones, which mark the point at which specific questions in the test were answered, allowing us to determine which red flagged events might be more important. However, it is entirely possible for a red flag to be a false positive if the activity looks suspicious to the computer but ends up being innocent. For example, if the student has to leave the computer due to a sudden emergency. Likewise, it is entirely possible for the algorithm to produce a false negative. For example, you can see at a certain point in the video that I am openly looking at my cell phone in full view of the webcam, but the program doesn't flag it as something that needs review. As a general rule then, it's a good idea to go over each student's report at least a little bit, focusing on high-priority reports or students you believe need special attention. To help you save time, you can always play through the video on fast forward rather than in real time, either double speed, 4 times speed, or 8 times speed. It is also important to note, in the interest of security, that these video records and these reports are only available to you, the instructor. Students will not have access to these videos and they will not be stored in any public location. If you want to request a video download, you can click on the link at the bottom of the report and send a formal request to the Respondus Monitor Administrator here at CNU. And that's all of the basics of both Respondus Mockdown Browser and Respondus Monitor. We hope this helps you create a more secure testing environment for high-stakes exams here in the fall 2020 semester. If you have any questions as you explore these new tools, please don't hesitate to reach out to us in Academic Technologies. But in the meantime, we hope you're having a great day. Bye!